Another good practice. I think we're maturing as a football team and really understanding how camp goes. It's a marathon, and the things that I try to stress with these guys is that we just got to keep stacking up practices, good practices, back to back to back to back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that we're inching our way to doing some really great things in execution and being the caliber of team that I think that this team has potential to be. So we had another good practice, and I think the big thing when guys start practicing every day is making sure we take care of our bodies. So we had a long discussion about that, after practice, because they're going to start getting sore and muscle soreness and stuff like that, and we want them to be preventive on handling, their own situations. So I thought good give and take. Had one period that was a lot of screen draws and stuff like that, and there were some good plays that the offense made, and good plays where the quarterback made some good decisions and some adjustments. And then I saw some really good things with the defense. Had some good read and react and shut down some plays. So as a head coach, I always like give and take. I'd be nervous if it was all one-sided. Then I'd be concerned. But I don't have that feeling. I think this team is really starting to gel, and they're starting to understand the process about being a good football team.
How important is that, especially to stack up these good practices before school starts, to where you kind of get in that groove when there's not that, I don't want to say excuse, but for lack of a better term, that excuse of, well, I've got schoolwork and things like that.
That's exactly right. And that's the other part that we really try to emphasize, too, is that we're trying to get the bulk of our information in and even game plan stuff, because that first week when school starts, is basically we're into, really the game week preparation, and you want them to be on high alert about doing things that with so much more detail. And I think this team has a good level of maturity because the leaders on the team are keeping everybody accountable, and that's always, I think, a great positive, from that standpoint.
You mentioned the other day that you could tell that these guys had done some homework, so to speak, leading up to the first day of camp. How much of that do you think is just a direct result of the program that Shannon Turley's instituted over the last few months?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think it's their training and what they did this summer to get themselves in really good physical shape to play the game. And then I think it's a great kind of step from what they did in the spring, the information we did there, and carried it over to summer and really enhanced the efficiency and the productivity of what they did in the spring. That has allowed us to be a little bit better than where we last had a session, which was in April. So, in either case, yes, I think it was a culmination of our training and those guys doing a lot of player-led stuff in the summer, and it's definitely reflective in what I'm seeing.
Obviously, you knew a lot about Shannon Turley and his program when you hired him. Is there anything about his program that surprised you or been particularly impressive to you?
I've been impressed with him ever since I've met him. And when my son was a student athlete at Stanford, we went on an official visit. I've been through the whole process with how they do things, and obviously my son being a part of that program at the time, it was, his first year at Stanford, they went to the Rose Bowl. So it just, to me, there was some consistency and longevity of things that they were doing that were very, very much instrumental to their success. And so it was a period of time where they had 10 straight, seasons of 10 wins or better. And they haven't lost a lot of players in terms of injury. So a lot of that is to the training and, conditioning of the players. And he's got a great track record of that.
I know you haven't been here throughout Terrence Lang's whole career, but as we've watched him, he's gotten better. Like every year has been like a linear progression. What's the next step for him, do you feel?
He's in great condition. He had that off-season surgery, and he's about 95% right now, and he should be in another week's time be full go and doing some stuff. But right now I just see a great level of maturity, and guys like him that has the physical size and talent. It's great that now the mental side is really picked up at a really, really high level, and I think his game, you haven't seen the best of his game yet. You saw glimpses of it, and a lot of things because he's such a really good athlete. But now the mental side of the game with him, his football knowledge and his role and understanding, the defensive system, I think that's really going to be enhancing even more. So we're excited to watch him play when he gets his chance to get on the field.
When Jay Lee Stack signed with you guys, his old head coach up at Cherry Creek, Dave Logan, had described him in a way that essentially said he's going to force his way onto the field up in Boulder just by how many things he can do. Have you seen that from him? Does that kind of make up his identity, just a guy who is something of a Swiss Army knife that forces you as the coaching staff to really take a close look at him and what he can do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He reminds me of there's a couple of NFL fullbacks that sometimes they're playing in a number of spots, even though they're labeled a fullback, and they've been the one-back runner, behind the quarterback. They've been obviously the fullback in some two-back offense, and then they're also played at the tight end positions, being in the slot. And Jay Lee has that ability. He does, and I think he's embraced it too. He knows he's unique. He's got some size advantages when he's in the backfield, and he understands he's a great ball receiver, catching running routes and stuff, and some secondary routes from the backfield too. So we're very pleased with where he's going and how we're going to utilize him moving forward, and I'm sure he's excited too.
Brady Russell had a great start to the season. Didn't get to see much though because of injury. First of all, where is he health-wise now? And second, how does he change what you can do offensively?
He's completely healthy, so that's a good thing. And he's had 2 really good solid days, in camp so far. And he adds that experience dimension and also the savviness of the position that I think some of the younger players are starting to learn by emulating and watching what he's doing. So it's good to have him back on the field, and he's a great leader. That's the other part too, that he does a great job of encouraging his group, his younger players, about what he sees, and this is what I would have done in this situation. So he's helping those guys get coached as well. So he's been a very good presence for us.
Any of those other tight ends taking a leap from the spring here in the first couple days?
I think Alec Pell looks good. He made a couple big plays today. I think he's done well. I think Caleb Fourier, he's jumped out there and made a few things, a few plays too. Eric Olson is learning and getting better. He's definitely light years of where he was in the spring and where he's doing now. So, those guys are doing some good things. Nico Magri, who we moved from defensive line to tight end, he even looks more comfortable playing tight end now, and he looks like a tight end. He's put in a lot of work with trimming down a lot of weight, and he's been working on his ball skills and things like that. So a lot of that position is definitely improved, and obviously we need to continue to stay on that path.
Christian Gonzalez in the secondary, obviously a big learning year last year for him. Have you seen him kind of take that next step here early in camp?
Oh yeah, he did that over the summer too, and even in the springtime. When we had our spring ball, he's a quiet, confident player. You don't hear much from him vocally, but he's a guy that's high on detail, doesn't like to make mistakes, but the thing that I have noticed of him now than even in the spring is that he's helping those younger corners. And even though he's a young corner, so he's sharing his knowledge of what he's learned over the last year. He's gotten better from it, and he's trying to help coach up those younger players that we just got in, because we have 3 new corners that are true freshmen that are we're looking to maybe utilize some of those guys if they can catch stay caught up with everyone else.
Nate Lehman had joined us yesterday, and Robert Barnes was a guy that he talked about just in terms of what he brings to the table, especially from a leadership point of view. Have you noticed that out of him, just Barnes being more of a vocal guy on defense?
He's come in that way. He was one of the guys I might have mentioned yesterday that, he came in as a grad transfer and really went to work right away first week, and everybody was like noticing, who is this guy? Because no one really that was on the team last year really knew who he was. But I think he quickly has established a respect in that leadership that he's brought, from just because of his work ethic. And he's always been vocal. He's always been very encouraging with his teammates. Those are all real great qualities of leaders who really understand how to pick guys up that need to be picked up and how to get on guys that need to pick it up. And he's been able to do those things really early, even prior to spring practice. So he's been a great addition for us.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Coach.
you.
Appreciate it.
Got it.
Appreciate it.
It's good to see you guys in person. I'll say that again. It's just good to see you guys in person. So thank you.
We sort of got to know you